The following podcast is a deep, shallow dive production.
And you're going to love it.
Okay, let's go.
Hey, what's up, everybody? Happy Tuesday. I just spent 5 minutes looking for a sound clip. I was going to try to play something funny saying, he's back. Because I was gone a couple days. Did you guys even notice? I mean, seriously. Let's see. What did I record last week? I recorded Tuesday and Wednesday. No Thursday, Friday. My bad, guys. My bad. But I'm back with a vengeance. Anyway, hope you had a great weekend. All right. You know, I want to catch up on a few things and then just kind of have a little real talk, come to Jesus. And I've had a lot of friends kind of asked me what my take has been on things with Trump. And so I did want to start off by discussing that. And I'll be totally honest. You know, I've said it before and I'm not shy about it. And I'm going to say it again. I did vote for him. I voted for him in 2020. I did not vote for him in 2016. I voted for Hillary Clinton, which is insane to me that I did that. But I didn't care about politics in 2016. I didn't pay attention to anything. I voted for, I don't know, probably who I thought I should vote for. So anyway, man, those are the days, actually. Those were the days that I did not occupy 96% of my brain matter with what's going on in the world. Jeez Louise. No, I'm actually super glad I'm like this now. I really am. I love being on top of things. I love getting into conversations with like random people and like being able to squash them in like 5 seconds because their entire basis of information is like the front page of CNN, MSNBC, or Fox. I'm critical on both. You guys know that. All right. Anyway. Okay. Here's my take on Trump so far. And honestly, like if I had to give him a grade, I guess they do this. I mean, I'd probably give him like maybe a B- or a C+. And let me tell you why. And also, you know, maybe you can, or not you can, maybe I can equip you guys with some facts and some data for, honestly, it's really for the people that have the Trump worship syndrome. And I have several friends like that. Like, it just doesn't matter what he does or doesn't do. Like, everything is amazing. And it's not. And honestly, I find it so unauthentic or inauthentic. Hold on. You know what? They're actually both valid. And Google said, according to the website, www, you should have paid more attention in high school. They're both valid. So, all right, they're both valid. I'm going to go with inauthentic. So what I say to them is I'm like, listen, you're being inauthentic to the way you've been the past 4 years. You know, for the past 4 years, you've complained about what you think is right. And you've criticized everything about the Biden administration. And now, you know, you can't say Trump is doing everything right because he's not. And let me give you the things in particular, specifically, that I think he's doing wrong. First of all, I think that honestly, the role of a president should be to bring a country together, whether that was 20 years ago or today. That's the primary role of the president. I think President Biden completely failed in that. He absolutely failed. The country was no closer together. As a matter of fact, it got divided even more. And I genuinely was hoping that Trump would kind of turn over maybe a new leaf a little bit and do things a little bit differently and have a little bit of a finesse game to this presidency. But it's not turning out like that. Therefore, I think that he is missing the mark in terms of even remotely bringing the country together. Now, you say that to a Trump worship syndrome guy, and they'll be like, well, screw those guys. Da, 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 da. You know, I'm tired of this. I'm tired of that. And I understand that. But again, I view that no different than what you're tired of. You know, you're basically not rising above and correcting and doing things better than the people in administration that you seem to have such an issue with. And so I think for the biggest point that I've made to friends that, kind of fall into the Trump worship syndrome category is I said, listen, I get it. I totally get it. First of all, I understand the guy's been through hell the past 4 years with, the felony indictments and the charges and the convictions and all the various lawsuits that, kept coming up from, Fannie Willis to the guy, Alvin Bragg, to the other dude, the white dude, James something, who was it? Or Jack Smith. I mean, man, he really is just a resilient beast when it comes to that, because I think that was a tremendous amount that honestly probably 99% of people would have just said, you know what, I don't need this. I'm like 78 years old and I've got a hot wife and a golf course that I own and among other things, and I don't need this. Let them figure it out. I'm going to be fine. And so I do give him tremendous credit for sticking it out. And I think, unfortunately, all of that has just caused him to be super bitter. And it's almost like I feel like he's maybe taking it out or getting everyone back a little bit, because I don't know, he's different to me. He's different to me right now. Like, he's lost a little bit of his, and some of you who have Trump derangement syndrome, you're probably not even going to believe I'm going to say this, but I did think Trump had a softer side to him. I actually I've seen videos of him with his grandkids or even his kids. And as much as everybody criticizes and tried to say that Melania hated him or whatever, I've never seen that at all. I've seen nothing but a woman that really loves her husband. And I think she does. I genuinely think she does. And I think he loves her too. Now, again, I'm sure they've had their issues, as every couple has, and, that's none of my business. That's their business. But my point is that I've always thought that they turned on Trump when he became a Republican and when he kind of ran on the whole drain the swamp and all that. And that's because they are the swamp. They absolutely are the swamp. And I think had he even messaged that properly, it could have been way more effective. And so I've always thought the underlying concept of what he's either representing or trying to represent is something I can get behind. And that is that, I do think politics are ridiculously corrupt. And I think all these guys and all these uniparty politicians, and I think there absolutely is a swamp. And I look at people again, Mitch McConnell, Republican, Nancy Pelosi, Democrat, Chuck Schumer, Democrat, Adam Schiff, Democrat, Lindsey Graham, Republican. Oh my God, I did add some more people than those in the mix. Oh, Dan, what's his face? Dan Crenshaw, the dude from Texas that Tucker Carlson ripped a new one on. That guy's a Republican. That guy's shady as hell. There's so many shady politicians. And so, I have always thought that what the intent of Trump was or should be is something I can get behind, because I'm all about draining that swamp. And there is a ridiculous swamp. It's all a swamp practically. And maybe even more than that, I've always thought he really does care about America. And I'll tell you, that is proven to me, because if you go back and look at interviews that Trump did in his 30s and in his 40s, so I'm talking 30, 40 years ago, when, by the way, he was much more mild-mannered back in his 30s. You would think he'd be more rambunctious when he was younger, but I feel like he got rambunctious as he's gotten older, kind of the exact opposite of me. But you go back and you listen to the interviews that he did on Oprah, on The View, on all of these places, maybe not The View, but definitely on Oprah when he was like in his mid 30s or early 40s. I'll try to find it and I'll play it another time. But he's been banging the same drum for like 30 years, and he's been incredibly consistent on talking about, putting tariffs in on other countries. He's been incredibly consistent on, the United States being taken advantage of by Europe, by China, by all these places. He's been consistent on proper border control, which over the years has been something every president has been consistent on. But all of a sudden, when it came, the past 4 or 8 years with Trump, they kind of weaponized it against him. And so he's always kind of been pretty level-headed to me. I know some of you are probably like, you're nuts, dude, but I'm not, because I'm looking beyond the media propaganda which has been created about him. And it really has. Again, if you are rolling your eyes and if you don't agree with it, I promise you there will come a day when you will agree with it and you'll get it. It'll probably be 4 to 8 years from now when he's completely out of the mix. And it'll probably be kind of like how all those people who hated George W. Bush now think he's like the funniest, cutest guy ever. This kind of discussion with him, I said, hey, go find me a clip of Trump before 2015, or actually even before he announced that he was running for president as a Republican. Find me something from before that, and not the Billy Bush thing, the Billy Bush clip. I'm talking about like the media going after Trump before he announced his presidency in 2016. So go find me something from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, 2010, 2011, 2012, 13, 14, 15. You're not going to be able to find anything, because prior to that, Trump was the guy. He was the guy. He absolutely was. His name is in like 300 rap songs. Him and Diddy were buddies. I mean, that's kind of working against him now. But like 50 Cent and him, Jay-Z and him, all these rap guys in him, all these professional athletes in him. It really was like Trump was one of those iconic figures, kind of like a Hulk Hogan, or even my guy Lou Ferrigno, the Incredible Hulk. Like, it was like a star that other stars got starstruck over. He really was. And again, if you can find something, I will absolutely play it and give you credit. But I guarantee you, you're not going to be able to find the visceral and vitriol media attacks about Trump before he announced his candidacy in 2016. You're not, because I have scoured the internet looking, and they never went at him like that. It all started when he decided to run, and it all started because he ran as a Republican. So anyway, there's all that. I wanted to start off by almost like, I don't know, maybe setting the stage in terms of the good stuff with him before I get into the bad stuff. And the bad stuff really is just, he just has no finesse game. And I think it has to do with the fact that he's tired and he's pissed off with what he had to endure for the past 4 years and even the past 8 years, going back to 2016. And I think he's taking it out on those people. I really do. I see it in his eyes, and I see it in the way and the manner he speaks. And I'm not even talking about the Zelensky thing, because I was fine with the way he was with Zelensky. But he's absolutely seems like he just wants to shove things down the throat of those that have opposed him. And again, I haven't walked in those shoes, so I can understand it, especially coming after 8 years of just being driven crazy. I can understand it. But I was hoping that he would rise above that. And more importantly than that, I'm telling you, the guy could disarm all of his enemies by rising above it. He literally could. I talked about it last week when he gave his State of the Union, not State of the Union, his joint address to Congress. If I was him, I would have invited Nancy Pelosi, Chuck Schumer, Adam Schiff even. Well, maybe not Adam Schiff, but Hakeem Jeffries. I would have invited those guys. Bernie Sanders. I would have called Bernie up. Can you imagine if he had done that and just finessed the game with those guys and called them up and said, hey, in front of the American people on live camera, I am extending my hand and I want to shake hands. Let's truly make America great again. Let's truly be together for America. And if those people would have not done it or kind of reacted weird, then the American people would be watching and be like, whoa, what the hell? He just extended an olive branch and you didn't take it. He could completely disarm these guys, but he's doing the exact opposite. I mean, I honestly, right now, I don't see any difference in what is going on right now with what was going on in 2020 when Biden took over. And, based on this, I think we're in for 4 more incredibly bumpy years. These are not going to be years that bring the country closer together. At the current trajectory, we will be even more divided into 2 halves by the time 2028 rolls around or 2027 rolls around, and it's time for another presidential election. And so for that, I think he's failing. I really do. And I hope that somehow he kind of turns the corner with that and realizes the my way or the highway, it just doesn't work. And what's crazy is the Republicans have the Congress right now. They have the majority in the House, majority in the Senate, but literally everything is ridiculously difficult to get accomplished. And look what's happening. Gas prices are higher. Food has not come down. The egg shortage is still there. All of these things that, we're coming up on 45 days in, all of these things that he said he was going to fix, they're getting worse. And they're getting worse because there's other strong forces just against him. And I think he thought he basically, no pun intended, trumped those guys. And I don't think he did. And I don't think he realizes how powerful, if you really want to believe in a deep state, I don't think he realizes how powerful that network of entities can be. And so you look at, the stock market plummeting yesterday, crypto prices, insane. I wish I had sold all my crypto a month ago because I could have bought it right back at the relatively same cost basis, So I think that this my way or the highway and this shoving everything down everybody's throat, I just don't think it's an effective way to win. And quite frankly, I think he can be better than that. I really do. Second big thing is I think that everything that has taken place with, again, Elon Musk and Doge and all of this, there's a lot of good that's come of that, but it's just too mysterious for me. I spend time on the Doge website and I see this tracker that keeps going. We've saved, 102 billion, 103 billion, 104 billion. But where is that money? Where's it going? Where literally is that money? And how am I benefiting from what you're saving? And so I think a criticism that is very fair to say about all that is, one, it is very strange how involved Elon Musk has been. Now, I do see that starting to kind of bring up some tension between these guys, and then also tension between Elon and maybe other Republicans. So I think the rubber's going to meet the road on that pretty soon. But overall, I think it's incredibly fair to say to a Trump worship syndrome person, hey, yes, in principle, I like the concept of Doge. I like the concept of driving out waste, fraud, and abuse from the government. But I don't think the way it's being done right now is being completely transparent. And it's causing us to, just take Elon's word for it that this money is being saved. And then where is the money? There was talk about every American, I think literally every American receiving like a $2,000 or $5,000 check or something along those lines, which basically compensated for, I don't know if it was every American or I don't know. I'll have to look that up. But there was talk about, almost like another, I don't know if I should call it a stimulus, but in my opinion, the way they originally positioned it was, hey, we've found all this waste, fraud, and abuse. And so we are going to take a gigantic portion of that and we're going to distribute that to the American people. So, that talk was done, but then it hasn't happened. So I think a lot of what's happening right now is they're talking the talk and everybody just goes with that. But then there's no backup support for us to understand how it's actually happening or if it's actually happening. And I think that is a very fair criticism. Okay. That's the second thing that I think is or could be done so much better. The third thing that is really starting to rear its head, and I think it's going to be a big issue, and I'm not going to get into it too much, but I am going to mention it because it's really obvious, but Trump is being very very like beyond pro-Israel, like pro-Israel times 1,000, to where it's causing normal white MAGA people to be like, wait a minute, what the hell is going on? And I know that because I have super white MAGA friends who ask me like, dude, what is this all about? Like, why does everything he do have to benefit Israel more than it's benefiting us? I don't get it. I've had that conversation, honestly, probably with a dozen people. And those are people that I'm actually like personal friends with. And then in addition to that, there's tremendous stuff being put online that just shows almost like it's just coming off weird. It's coming off as a very, very weird like allegiance / potential quid pro quo for, the tremendous campaign donations that he received from Miriam Adelson and then AIPAC and all of that. And we're going to talk about that in another episode, again, just more from an informational perspective more than anything. And then it's up to you to decide what you think about that. But I think that is starting to get into the mainstream. It really is. I think people are starting to really ask questions, because at the same time that he's passing so much pro everything for Israel, he's really like clamping down on anti-Semitism and more than anything, he's clamping down on like free speech against anything related to Israel. And a lot of people are questioning that. I will say Vivek Ramaswamy, I think one of the reasons he sort of got, I don't know if I'd say he got shelved, but I mean, he's running for the governor of Ohio. So I guess, that is definitely something. But I will tell you, it was feeling like Vivek was going to have a much bigger role in this administration. And then whether it was him butting heads with Elon or, quite frankly, him not being totally on board with the evangelical Christians and all of that. And we're going to talk all of that in another episode as well. But I do think that he kind of was sidelined a little bit, and he was kind of like maybe taken off of this administration's chessboard, and they didn't want to completely maybe what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't want to completely, I guess, remove him from from the mix. And so that's why he's running for the governor of Ohio, which again, I mean, is a big job, but I thought he was going to have a much bigger job in this administration. And so I think Vivek kind of got removed because he was very critical about the law that basically talked about, any form of anti-Semitism not being allowed. Because he said, listen, free speech is free speech. Like you cannot limit free speech to a group like that. That basically defeats the purpose of everything we talk about for the First Amendment. And I think after that was when I started seeing, it's almost like they subtly started to pull him away. And then there's other things that have happened, like literally the other day, he took away $400 million of federal funding to Columbia University because of, remember those protests, those on-campus student protests, and we talked about a lot of them and brought on, Elijah Kallenberg. I brought him on a couple times and played so many clips from those protests, which were filled with Jewish students, Muslim students, Christian students. Like that was Gen Z at its finest, completely united. And so now, because of that, and because Trump and the Trump administration has framed all that as being anti-Semitic, and by the way, you've got huge Jewish advocacy groups coming out against that. Like they're saying, hey, we're the people who should have been offended. And we're not offended by that because they were not being anti-Semitic. They were advocating for, the not unaliving of women and children. And so Trump's taken a real hard stance against all that. Like I said, they took away I think $400 million of funding from Columbia for that. It looks like there's been some arrests made of some of the students that were maybe on green cards or visas. I haven't followed that totally closely, but I'll try to pull some information about that. But, I think that is not appropriate what he's enabling to happen there. I really don't think that's appropriate, especially again, it would be one thing if every Jewish advocacy group said, yes, they were anti-Semitic, but literally the majority of them were protesting with these kids. So that's pretty crazy. There were only a few the really powerful ones who did kind of take the other side of it. But a lot of these groups are Jewish founded, and they're the ones standing up. And again, I mean, gosh, you have to give them a lot of credit. I think it takes a lot of guts to stand up inside your own community. And so, that's another thing I would point to as something that is just, I don't think there's a finesse game being had there. And I think that he is being either, I don't know, coerced into that, or again, like I said, it's a quid pro quo for something or whatever, but it's coming off very inhumane on him. And I think it is something that it's not going to go away, man. I'll tell you what, Gen Z, I think Candace Owens said it. She's like, they're feisty. And they really are feisty. These kids are not backing down, man. They are not backing down. And really nobody is. And I think that when the average Joe Q public, I'm talking the average either white, well, it's really white, because I think a lot of other nationalities or ethnicities, or even like Black people, Hispanic people, they might be a little more privy to all this because they've kind of had their own issues that they've fought over the years. But I'm talking about the average, Abercrombie and Fitch or Joe Q public. That person is waking up a little bit, and they are. And when that collective group, which is the largest group, when they start to kind of say, hey, enough is enough, I think there's going to be some bigger problems. And I think Trump's going to have a problem with that. So anyway, those are some of the things that, again, I guess I would point to, and it's not really even criticism. I've just been very surprised at the way this administration has tried to handle things. Like they've been just trying to shove everything down everybody's throat. And again, maybe that'll work because they have control of the Congress. Obviously, there have been 1 million executive orders, and a lot of them have been good ones. So again, I'm not saying they've done everything wrong, but I think that they are lacking in empathy, and they're lacking in, like I said, a finesse game with all of this. And I swear, if they would really just rise above and, like I said, just disarm everybody and take issues one by one and clearly explain them to the American people so everybody is on the same page, so the media cannot spin what they said, I think they would be winning right now big time. And I don't think they are right now. I really don't think they are, because again, if you grade, quality of life and costs and the cost of gas and groceries and all that, nothing's really changed. Now, again, we're only 45 or I guess coming up on 60 days into it. So obviously that's not a long time. But remember, these guys set high expectations and they set themselves up to accomplish all these things. And so far, none of that is really happening and there's a lot of opposition. The last thing I'll talk about in terms of, even his foreign policy. Now, again, I do agree with negotiating with Putin and bringing the Ukraine war to an end and all that. Absolutely. His handling of Gaza, you guys know I don't really like the way he's done that, but maybe there's a method to his madness with that. Maybe his crazy, Trump Gaza thing was to make the Arab nations step up and do something. I don't know. We'll see on that, but I think the optics of that kind of worked against him. But even things like the way he's handling the tariffs in terms of Mexico and Canada and all that. Now, I will say what I've noticed with Trump is he comes out with the big statement, causes all the controversy, and then when it's time to implement, he pushes it back 30 days. And that just happened again with Mexico and Canada. It's pushed back another 30 days. So maybe that's his tactic. That's his negotiation tactic. But even that, I just feel like he doesn't need to do it like that, Even when it comes to tariffs, you could just say, hey, Canada and Mexico, we need to put pen to paper and look at how much we import from you versus how much you guys import from us. And we need to make it more equitable. You know what I mean? Like everything doesn't always have to be a not hateful, but everything doesn't always have to be this monster negotiation. You know what I mean? Like sometimes you can just have a conversation. It doesn't have to be a negotiation. It can be a conversation and you can just say, hey, look, these are the facts. These are the facts. These are the numbers. And this isn't fair. So what I'd like to propose is making this more equitable. Now, if that doesn't work for you and we can't come up with a fair, equitable compromise, then I am going to have to implement a tariff on the goods. And that's going to hurt you guys more than it hurts us. And I'm going to clearly tell the American people, hey, we tried to negotiate in good faith. Here's everything that we tried to do. And Canada and Mexico would not agree. Therefore, this is really our last straw, and we have to go and put these tariffs on. You know what I mean? Like calmly explain that to everybody. And I think in that situation, like I said, you can't poke a hole in any of that stuff. So anyway, all right, man, that was an episode dedicated to this, but I did want to kind of cover it because I have gotten a lot of questions on it. All right, I've got a bunch of clips coming for the rest of the week, and I also will be airing the episode with Alan Shabaro. Sorry about the delay in that. I had to get that edited professionally, actually. So I had to pay a guy to do that, and he's kind of lax. So I'm not going to hire that guy anymore, but I'm waiting for that to come back. So, all right, that's it, everybody. Call a spade a spade.
That was a great way to end it.
This episode was brought to you by the new book, Deep Shallow Dive Into You, available now on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hardcover and paperback. Don't forget to sign up for our new mailing list on our website at deepshallowdive.com.